welcome back to another Linux GameCast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, 2016 has struck again in the form of another humble bundle, and Zenotic shows off some stats. I'll tell you what, man. They're quite impressive.
Are you an idiot like me with a low profile case? Well, I got some good news for you. And a high-level Vulcan API may be logical, but is it necessary?
NVIDIA's new beta drivers focus on performance. Remains to be seen if anyone will ever make of that elusive functionality. And John Carmack says he won't use Macs unless under duress, which isn't all that relevant when you're being accused of destruction of evidence.
Beautiful people. I'm Vince Stone here at LGC Actual, switching the bits, joined by our man up north, where it's quite warm for Canada this time of year.
I know. I'm half tempted to get naked right now.
Hot. No, where's Pedro?
Yeah, no, it's -1 right now, so...
Together with Chevron Dynamic helping us form that last little bit known as Cocaine Voltron. Before we get started, we'd like to see what's going on in each other's life organs, gentlemen. I'll just go ahead and get this out of the way because I'm kind of hooked into it, but I'm a little scared because I have trust issues. It's called Emerald City. It's on NBC, and it's kind of feeling my Game of Thrones isn't fucking on niche right now, and I'm like, okay, it's pretty good, and I like it. It has a very high production value. Unfortunately, it's on NBC, so they're going to nope it from orbit after the first series. What's up, Jay Baby?
I don't know. With Emerald City, with Vincent D'Onofrio playing the wizard, I keep half expecting him to go all like autism mode and beat the crap out of people like he did in Daredevil, which would make me just so happy. No, I got bumped to the unlimited plan for my ISP because they changed some laws in Canada, and I finally got to see the results of it. So, bonus soda. Also, my 4K monitor came in, and it has a back nipple. I felt really, really weird trying to turn it on, and then I plugged it in and tried to actually use it.
That seems like a fair issue to have. No, on my end, I spent most of the week playing just random Linuxy games that I've been meaning to play more of, including Rocket Cars and Distance and a few others, because you'll see in the review I didn't really have much of a reason to play the game we're throwing chairs at.
Well, there's that game we play every week.
It's called Pin the Tail on the Horse and Not Get Kicked in the Head.
Right.
Because it's the Steamers Update of the Week. Speaking of getting kicked in the head, Gabe Newell. He did an AMA on Reddit. And lots of questions were asked. And all the ones about Linux were ignored. I did a Control F on that entire thing. There were a couple people who were asking Linux-related questions. This article here comes to us by PC World, by the way. Links to all that crap in our show notes. Yeah, but most of the Linux questions were unanswered. All of the Linux questions were unanswered. But there were other questions involved, including the progress of Source 2. Apparently, Valve have some internal projects that they're never going to release that are utilizing it. And the question of why there is so much crap on Steam came up again. And we've said it a million times. Steam does not care about the quality of software on their service, because as long as people keep giving them money, they will continue to sell whatever garbage people are willing to buy.
Well, that's true. I mean, there was a couple of there was one game. It was a Windows-only game. Basically, you have to like go full autism on Steam or threaten to kill Gabe. That works. That also works to get your shovelware removed or sue Valve. That's also a winner. I mean, if you ever want to get around to that. But they did talk about...
start reporting bugs to them for their security.
That works. Hashtag truck simulator. But what you can look at is one thing in this, and they claim to have hired like 1,000 more support staff to reduce waiting times and stuff like that. I don't know. I can look at dealing with Valve is like dealing with a phone company or the cable company. You just hope you never actually have to.
Yeah,
you think their support guys have the nipple flaps on their shirts?
Probably.
The support thing was something that Gabe actually answered, which he spent most of the answers that most of the websites are actually covering are non-answers. And the support one, he said that the support staff was increased by roughly 5x, which I guess they now have a whole of 6 people working on support. And he answered a couple of more questions with like specifically, will Valve ever release a single player experience in the same veins of Half-Life or Portal, even if it's not Half-Life 3 or Portal 3, at least something in that very same universe. And he just said yes. But yeah, though, like Jordan said, all of the Linux questions were basically ignored. And the, what was it? Let's see. Yeah, the one about shovelware, he gave a non-answer. What he actually said was, there's really not a singular definition of quality. Political much? And what we've seen is that many different games appeal to different people. Again, non-answer. So we're trying to support the variety of video games that people are interested in playing. We know we still have more work to do in filtering those games so the right games show up to the right customers. Bull frickin' horse shit.
It goes back to what I was saying, though. As long as people keep giving Valve money, they have no reason to stop putting crap on their store.
That's definitely a thing. But yeah, to put a bow on the end of the story, we've been waiting for Half-Life 3. I kind of put 2 and 13 together the other day for the entirety of 3 U.S. presidents, and one did 2 terms.
Thanks, Obama.
Give us some updates. Good news.
Yeah.
Good news.
Well, you know, it's not going to help us going downhill. This is Descent. They have a new updates. They've added some ship skins. They've added a few tweaks. The big one here is their AI. Apparently, they've retweaked their. They've gotten rid of the training mode because apparently no one was using that. But they've added a really easy bot AI that's supposed to be a little simpler for newer people to get into. The normal bot AI is coming back as a selectable option, but that's not going to be for a future update. So, I mean, development on this keeps rocking on. Do you think this is going to be like the Distance thing where it'll just perpetually be in early access until the death of the universe?
You know, I'm kind of curious about that because, I mean, it's Descent, and, you know, Descent was a favorite of people around my age way back in the DOS ages. And it's not the first Unreal Engine 4 game on Steam, but they're charging like 30 stinky cashes for it. I don't know how they're getting away with it. Then they had the big snafu where, you know, all the backers and all that. Then they ended up selling some keys to like Indiegogo, and they sold the game in $1 bundles, so everybody else had a copy of it. It's not a bad game. It's fun. I'm glad that they updated the AI. I didn't get a chance to actually test this one this week, but one thing I will say, the AI, the bots were already hella stupid, and that was if they were just frozen in the map, which happens often. But when it comes to permanent early access, I don't know, man. They seem to still be making major changes to the game as opposed to just futzing with it. Pedro, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I have more faith in this game coming out of early access than I do of we ever seeing a Carmageddon of any shape, title, or, you know, port on Linux. So no. I think they will eventually come out of early access. I don't know when. It will probably be a long time, because as long as they can keep it in early access, they can keep dodging the almighty criticism. And I'm kind of glad that you mentioned that the bots were very often just frozen on the map, because I was starting to think that it was just me. Thankfully, it's not.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Overgrowth will come out after this comes out of early access, though, so we can keep our fingers crossed for that. But up next, something about anal fissures. I don't know.
No, not exactly. You see, I had been getting emails about this game for a long time, and when they finally announced a proper release version, I sent them an email and I said, okay, so when the game is released, can you send us some keys? And they did, so thank you very much for that. The fine folks at Chilled Mouse actually came through. Now, when I first started playing this game, I played a little bit of it, and I'm like, why do I get the feeling I'm playing fan fiction?
I don't know. What's the name of the
game? This is Torn Tales.
Oh, okay. That's just one.
Yes. Or as it's colloquially known, The Adventures of Snow White, Robin Hood, and Dr. Jekyll. Yes.
And you think he's making that up, but he's not.
I'm not. You literally play as a 3-man or 2-man and 1-woman team of Robin Hood, Snow White, and Dr. Jekyll. And Dr. Jekyll's mechanic is actually interesting because the more damage he takes, the more his blood toxicity increases. Then he turns into Mr. Hyde and the fight is over.
See, now what doesn't make sense is those stories are completely separate from each other. Maybe Robin Hood and Snow White I would buy because they're both vaguely French. Franco-German and in the same area. But Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is a fairly recent story in comparison.
Yeah,
what the hell's up
hence
with that?
my whole
Alan
thing
Moore
about
is
I
spinning in
am
his
playing
grave that he
fan
sleeps in
fiction at
because
this
he's
point.
window.
Now, admittedly, and considering we threw chairs at the dwarves last week, maybe I'm a little biased on that, but the gameplay feels very similar to the dwarves. And the art style, it reminds me of the book levels in Trine 3, and fuck you, Torn Tales, for reminding me of Trine 3. But also, Snow White looks like she hit her goth phase in her 40s, and that takes some getting used to.
That's
You're not saying it's
People
impossible,
can be goths
though,
at
right?
any age.
It's not impossible. It just looks weird.
I looked at it, I played with it, I installed it, got through like the first little map. It does have it's interesting. It's definitely one of those games you're gonna have to put like 30 or 40 minutes into it before you even have like a rudimentary idea of what exactly is going on. But what's this clocking in at? It's currently 10% off, so it's $11.69 if you want to throw that. Currently $12.99. I can confirm it works over here on the Ubuntu 1604, and Pedro's rocking his
So Pedro,
Also 1604.
I have one question about this game. Does it control more like, say, Dawn of War 2 or We Are the Dwarves or anything like that, or what would you directly compare it to?
right click to
We Are
move.
the Dwarves. It's very similar. It's just entirely mouse driven, except for the quick bar at the bottom where you have to use a keyboard.
Do they have that pause resume thing or
Nope.
No.
So it's more like Satellite Rain than.
Yeah.
It would be
All
great.
right.
Yeah, check this out, man. I guess it's a great idea. You go to our key dock, install it, and get back with us next week.
Maybe if we're going to be throwing chairs at it, who knows?
Perhaps.
But
indeed.
I think we need a hero.
Yes,
Call
we
it
need a hero
to the end of the night.
Yes.
Gotta be fast.
But I actually sent these guys, or I tried to send them an email, as it were, because I saw I Am the Hero show up on Steam, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't look terrible, considering everything we've been seeing coming out for Linux in January. That actually looks half competent. So I'm like, okay, let's do a Google search on these guys, and they are they are primarily a mobile developer. So I found an email for them. I sent them said email, and I immediately got a return to sender reply from the mailer daemon. So yeah, I guess we're not getting keys for that one. But it looks to be like a side scroller beat 'em up type of game, as it were.
Yeah, the Dutch angle thing kind of threw me for a loop. I'm not sure if I like it or not, but it definitely adds a little bit of dimension to the classic hipster pixel beat 'em up formula. But it's still like that weird pseudo 3D thing that I don't think really contributes anything. It just makes everything look weird, and I bet you it screws up with sort of the positioning and hitboxes and whatnot. But I could be wrong.
I don't know. Maybe we'll work something out, find a way to get in contact with these lads. I'm sure they got a Twitter nuts or something like that. But definitely by looking at it, looks like hipster pixel Streets of Rage 2. Holler at me, my Genesis fans. But we're not done. Because this has been... All right, you have questions, Ninja has answers. This is Save the Ninja Clan. And, this is borderline... you can get sued by the Meat Boy team with this shit, son, if you ain't careful. What is it? It's a platformer for casual players as well as speedrunners. There are two bugs. It looks like Super Meat Boy with a skin pack and tighter, cheaper graphics, but it's only 79 cents or 99 at regular price. So, I mean, it is priced to sell. I might just pick it up for a fun stream, but it has the elusive operating system requirement. If your Steam is updated on Linux, you're good.
I mean, the Windows requirements are much better, considering you need to install Microsoft 7 or 8 in order to run it.
Yeah, Microsoft 7, 8, 10.
7, 8, 10.
Yeah.
No, I like the discrepancy in the OS recommendation on Linux. If and they're using the wrong in that very first half of that sentence, Steam is updated on Linux.
Wrong one.
Yeah, it's like the wrong one on the first one, and then they use the exact same one, but correctly on the second bit after the comma. So it's like, which is the correct one.
I'm more entertained by this graphics because it just screams challenge to me. Graphics card made within the last 4 years. It was like, I can probably find one. Hey,
So if
Matrox,
I
what's up,
throw
buddy?
one of those laptops with a GTX 720M or a 710M, will I be able to run that?
Uh-huh.
I don't think so.
I don't know. This game looks like it has like awesome graphical fidelity. It may just break your system. I mean, you need like at least 3 980s to even like consider booting this up.
Okay, well, I think that's going to do it for the horse this week. What's coming up next?
Coming up next, speaking of 980s, we got some NVIDIA driver news, and we got Pedro's confused by video card packaging and the peripherals that come with them. We'll explore that in depth.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, stick around for the news. But before we get to that, we have some horn to do. Yes, you love us.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, let the shilling begin, and we'll shill so hard. You need to go to patreon.com/. No, you just go to linuxgamecast.com. There's a support the show button. You can click on that, and we got a lovely out-of-date screen cap of our Patreon page, which we'll get to in a little bit. We got lovely Amazon affiliate links that allow you to support us while fueling your own, I don't know, whatever the crap you buy on Amazon habit, because I'm sure you sickos buy all sorts of weird crap on there. And we also got some PayPal donate buttons if you don't want to go through Patreon. But of course, we will tell you to go to patreon.com/LinuxGamecast anyways to better support the show. We're at 161 bucks per Saturday night train wreck with 95
dude,
backers.
we're like $14 away.
Woohoo! $14 away from regular streams Tuesdays and Thursdays. Dear God, you apparently want more of us. So much so that you're willing to toss wet, stinky cash at us. But, that big goal at 200 is, just around the corner, too. Then you can force me to play Serious Sam 3 and watch me suffer as I go through this game with these idiots.
We're getting there. Don't you worry. We're getting there.
Slowly but surely, it's creeping up on me like so many stalkers, or just like Orn in my dreams. But... anything else special going on? Do we have any new backers? Oh yeah, we do. We got a backer in the name of Pizza Dude, that guy who occasionally shows up on Left for Brad and will occasionally
our
terrorize
very own
Cheryl.
favorite hipster.
Hey man, Pizza Dude's been around since long ago, and it's kind of brilliant. Thanks everyone for helping us out, and especially if you're thinking about buying something wicked expensive or mildly wicked expensive, definitely hit those Amazon
55 gallon.
Yeah, we get a taste of that shekels. It keeps us loud, live, independent, and we keep bringing you this awesome Nightmare show. Plus, if you're a $1 Patreon, you get an extra hour of LGC, this show, every week, because the pre-shows is available as a little RSS feed throughout your podcast, or just listen to it right on the page however you want to. B-Man, tell me about drivers.
Let's go. Yeah, in true LGC tradition, we start off with the news proper with some drivers. NVIDIA have released the 378.06 beta, which has a decent amount of improvements and new functionality added. They've added support for the ARB_parallel_shader_compile extension to allow multi-threaded compilation of GLSL shaders.
This is why I need a job at NVIDIA. That would have been called Frank.
Yeah, no, it's just it's a specific OpenGL extension which allows for multi-threaded compilation of shaders. Now, that doesn't mean like not a magic performance boost. It still requires that the game, or at least a game engine, looking at you, Unity, to be built aware of that particular extension for it to do anything at all.
Magic performance boost comes from another part of the driver update that's coming later. But,
yes.
So one thing they added that I guess is somewhat relevant to me as a NVIDIA Prime user is they added a GUI option in NVIDIA settings to display statistics for the Prime monitor that you got to set up. You still got to actually go in the xorg.conf, and you still got to define mope setting, and you still got to create the dead display that the NVIDIA driver will render shit on, and then copy it to the Intel IGP or whatever the hell you're using. Yep. I kind of wish, because it's like 8 lines of xorg.conf, I kind of wish they just had a little button that said, make this thing work with Prime, and, oh, hey, here's the NVIDIA card, here's the other card. Mode set on that one.
You see, that's NVIDIA saying, we don't want to deal with Optimus. That shit, we just wish we could let it go. but they still can't because there are still people making laptops with both Intel and NVIDIA drivers, and they just pipe all of the heavy lifting from the NVIDIA GPU through the integrated GPU and the Intel processor. It's freaking pain in the ass. Not even NVIDIA wants to do that.
That's totally not how that works, but sure, whatever. Continue, Pedro.
Yes. The driver also now allows for external EGL libraries to add functionality to client-side applications, which is good. Wayland is out. Fedora 25 is using it if you just download the regular workstation version, which comes with GNOME 3. You have Wayland up and running by default, so there's better support for client-side stuff in this new driver.
So it's still not working with Fedora 25 just yet. There's still work that needs to be done to get Wayland and the Blob NVIDIA drivers all talking nicely.
Yeah, it will run most of the regular Wayland applications. If you want to run, say, an X Wayland application, you still can't do that. We're still kind of waiting on that one. NVIDIA, please. Or Mesa, please. Now, they also added a couple of different Vulkan extensions, the KHR display and the KHR display swap chain. And the big one, this is the really, really big one, it's the fact that the GL threaded optimizations environment variable is now enabled by default, which means that for most people, yes, there will be a performance improvement in some improperly threaded games, and the biggest offenders in that are actually like the Valve games, the source games. I guess the 2GL translation layer isn't so good with the threading, but the GL threaded optimizations flag usually helped considerably when running them. But, and this is the big sort of caveat, as it were, in this environment variable, is that it can actually cause a performance degradation under certain circumstances. Like,
no, the driver says that it'll automatically disable it if it detects a performance degradation. I'm curious how they pull that off, and even if it works as advertised.
Yeah, I don't really know how they're doing that. I'm kind of curious, but then again, this is the NVIDIA proprietary driver, so chances are we'll never know.
Booga, black magic.
How about we take that driver and we put it on this hot piece of hotness?
Oh, yeah. This is from our pals at PCPerspective.com. That's a very nice article from Tim Very about the Gigabyte half-height 1050 and 1050 Ti, which I totally want because even though I just bought a low-profile 750 Ti for my Steam box, I can always stand to upgrade it to a 10 series card. It's fully PCI powered, which is nice. It takes up 2 slots, which is a bit weird. It's going to nope your one PCI mini port or the X1 port or just the regular old PCI port. But I mean, if you're on a low profile case, you got to make sacrifices when it comes to plugging in expansion cards. But Pedro, I hear you're confused with the mounting bracket and why they might ship more than one.
Yeah, you see, I didn't know they ship more than one until you mentioned it in the notes, because I'm looking at that video card. It's like, that's a full-sized bracket on a half-height video card with a double slot wide. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Pedro, all that means is that NVIDIA has a sense of humor. It's
well, Gigabyte in this case.
Or whoever. Yeah.
But yeah, no, as Jordan mentioned in the notes, apparently these half-height cards, they ship them with 2 brackets, one which is half-height and the other one which is full-height in case you want to use it in a full-height case. That's awesome. I honestly did not know that they did that.
They do it with wireless cards too. Wireless cards, SATA cards. Basically, anything that doesn't require the full height of the PCI thing usually ships with a low-profile bracket.
Okay, well, that's enough about the bracket, but what about the car? I mean, the hinge. I mean, this beautiful little thing in front of us. Do we have anything resembling pricing information?
They seem to believe that it's going to be about $150 for the TI and a little bit less for the regular
and
one.
$135 for the regular non-TI version.
Okay, so we're looking at...
So it's within that same price range.
640 Pascal CUDA cores, clocked at 1366 base, 1468 boost, 2 gigajoules of GDDR5.
Four actually.
I was looking right here.
Yeah.
If you go to the product page, it actually says 4.
Okay, so it's going to get 4, all right. Bad piece.
Yeah,
of
the
equipment.
TI gets 4, and the low profile, the base 1051 gets 2 gigs. And no, seriously, if you're thinking of getting one of these, get the TI because it performs almost on par with the 970, and it actually outperforms the 970 if you're running, say, a Vulcan.
Yeah, you can also use all 4 gigs of it, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, and you can actually use all 4 gigs of it.
Okay, we got a big news segment, so we need to skip ahead to Vulcan.
Okay. Vulcan HF. You know, Vulcan is hard, right? You got to write a bunch of boilerplate code. You got to do all that crap. So the NVIDIA guys have announced VKHLF, which is a high-level API abstraction layer for Vulcan that is supposed to create performant Vulcan code in a more easy-to-use format. I mean, hopefully this is something to address the whole Vulkan is kind of weird, DirectX is easier, and blah, 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 that some developers have.
I mean, come on, man.
You know,
I've been using Visual DX12 for like a month now.
I know, you got to get that click and drag graphics. That's just how it works. But, I mean, the portability is a concern. The article brings it up. And, I mean, NVIDIA does like their vendor lock-in for sure. So I'm curious if this is going to be NVIDIA only, or if they're going to maybe play a little nice, because the nice thing about Vulkan is that it's an open standard, and if this thing affected everything, or if this thing was applicable to, say, AMD's Vulkan implementation and Intel's Vulkan implementation and so on and so forth, it would get a lot more people using NVIDIA's technology, but in a more clean and nice way. And of course, we get our obligatory UHF reference, supplies!
And it actually makes sense that it would be, since, you know, Vulkan, open standard and everything. And if NVIDIA is just making it easier for developers to put Vulkan into their games or into their game engines, it would make sense that it would still work with Intel, with AMD, what have yous, because it's still just on the back end, it's still just the game or the game engine sending Vulkan calls to whatever driver is providing Vulkan to the system. In theory. But it's NVIDIA, so you never know. Now, the big thing here is that if Oculus or, you know, anyone else working with SDL, they don't really want to do the same with Vulkan that they did with OpenGL. There was that very famous slide that Oculus showed that you literally only needed 3 lines of code to spawn a window with SDL for OpenGL, and you needed 3 pages worth of it to do the same in DirectX. But doing that is defeating the purpose somewhat, because the reason that Vulkan has to be more involved is exactly because of how much closer to the metal it is, and the performance gains that are to be had from that proximity. It seems like making it a higher level thing is just like 1 step forward, 2 steps back kind of deal. Then again, that's probably the reason, and Ven kind of already joked about DX12. DX12 is made a hell of a lot easier to Windows game developers because of Visual Studio. It can just do all of the DirectX 12 hard work for you. Now, what that actually causes in the end game is that most DirectX 12 games don't really have a performance boost in any significant manner. So that's not entirely all that's cracked up to be, and I'm kind of afraid that that's exactly the same thing that will happen to the high-level functionality that NVIDIA is attempting to introduce to Vulkan.
What would be nice, I mentioned this before we started recording, it may have been in the pre show as well, if you want to catch that, if you're a $1 Patreon. As we plugged earlier, I would be nice if this thing had an option where it will spit out like proper Vulkan code in SPURV, so after you do your sort of high-level prototyping, you can go in and make better optimizations. That would be kind of neat.
Yeah.
So, 2016 is back. Well, the Humble Bundle best of 2016, I should say. Pay what you want. Beat an average, or pay $10 plus for Homeworld. Really, Rust? Huh.
Yes.
Wait, okay. Wait, if I beat the average of 418, I can get Rust, or if I pay $10, I can get...
you only get the one, okay. It's the one in the foreground, it's Homeworld.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, $4 for Shadowrun and Victor Vran is a pretty good deal.
Yeah, Victor Vran alone is definitely worth picking up in this one. I don't know anything. I don't know what an Evil N is. It's not on the Linux, so I don't care. Heart Elks Breaks. I think that Jordan, you said something that's not a horrible game or something like that.
I don't recall. Maybe I did. I say a lot of things that I don't remember. Drugs are bad, kids.
Do more of them. But no, this is if you're a Linux user, this is a good bundle to get. Just make sure you keep it under $10 because we don't want to go around rewarding people who don't provide Linux versions of their games. Gearbox, and you've already paid Aspire to do the Mac port of Homeworld, and you don't want to do it for Linux. And so fuck you.
So what? Did they just nope the Pac-Man
at least we're
chart?
getting Civ.
Dicks? I'm looking for a normal Pac-Man chart to show us
Yeah,
I
no,
think
that's
they got
not
rid
a
of that.
regular. That's a weekly bundle, I think.
Okay, what else?
So you don't get the Pac-Man
Anyway,
chart.
get it just for Victor Vran if you don't already have
Yes.
that. Now, this is we just got to bring this up because Valve has already shown off the Vive at the Valve's developer conference. They're like, hey, it's running Linux. Oculus is like, eat a bag of dicks. And
Oculus just saying no. Linux, never heard of it. And John Carmack, which used to be one of the big Linux proponents back in the day, has
Not
basically said,
really.
fuck Linux, I can't deal with that anymore. So, yeah. Now, during the latest trial session, John Carmack literally
2
said,
billion.
yes, John Carmack was in the witness stand, and he was asked about a particular Mac computer where he used to work for ZeniMax, Bethesda's quote-unquote publisher. And he said, I will never use a Mac unless under duress. He actually said that. So that right there, John, you're kind of a douche, but yeah, no, that was a good one. But
I'm sure he's
Bethesda-
going to go cry on his turbocharged Ferraris now.
yes,
Yeah, wipe the stickers away
Bethesda
with
is
giant piles of
actually
money.
claiming that Oculus and John himself, they destroyed evidence relating to the code that Mr. Carmack took with him when he stopped working for id and went to work with Facebook on Oculus. And that's a really, really big no-no. And Bethesda is no stranger. I've said this before. Bethesda is no stranger to protracted lawsuits. They did that with Interplay a few years ago because of the Fallout, the rights to the Fallout IP. And now they're going up against Facebook. And what I really hope happens in the end here is that Bethesda gets a proper kick in the teeth.
Yeah,
with this
maybe
trial.
we can get some definite mutually assured self-destruction. I see a lot of people in chat rooms like, Carmack's never helped Linux. Well, Carmack basically created id, and he allowed everyone else to make those Linux ports working for him. So you got to think about it like that sometimes. I'm not a huge fan of Carmack, but the dude's a fucking genius. Now, he's pretty much old man yells at cloud at this point. But in his day, he gave us the Dooms. He gave us the Quakes and the engines that powered that. And they were also the ones that decided to open source those technologies. So think about
And
that,
then
too.
ZeniMax went and ruined it. The end.
So, jump around.
Jump up, and get down. No, this is just Jackrabbit. You may, chances are, if you were a teenager or a reasonably, getting close to your teen years in the 90s, you knew about Just Jackrabbit and Just Jackrabbit 2. I was a big fan of Just Jackrabbit 2. It was possibly the best last truly old school platformer I enjoyed and played all the way through. Unfortunately, this is OpenJazz, and it can't really play Jazz Jackrabbit 2. It's an open source reimplementation of the original Jazz Jackrabbit engine.
Oof, I've seen SDL 1.2.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
you
so
can't
with
full
all the
screen
fun
that, or it'll
entails.
disable all your monitors.
Also, why are the controls on Windows and Linux reversed? That doesn't
I
make
have
any
no
sense.
idea. I managed to get this to build, but then I went looking around the interweb, see if I can find like the original Jazz Jackrabbit assets, because you need those if you want to play any of the games. I have the
Pedro, I gotta
ISO
stop
I
you for
ripped
one
from
thing.
the
You keep
Jazz
saying
Jackrabbit.
Jizz Jackrabbit, and that's hilarious.
I have the ISO for Jazz Jackrabbit 2. There, I said it again. On my external hard drive, but it doesn't run it, and I never really had the first one. I played it at a friend's house, but yeah, no, the first one and the metric fuck ton of expansions that actually came out for that game. You need the data assets for either one of those to be able to play this. I got it to build, but I couldn't really find a way to get it to run, so it builds.
Okay,
That's nice.
yeah, okay, it's open sourcey. It's definitely a good thing. And
speaking of open source,
Zenotic, 2016 by the numbers. With 2016 in the bag, they thought it would be fun to explore all the data that they're spying on you, high NSA. Using Zonstat DB, armed with pandas.
And pandas.
Oh,
goddamn pandas.
Kinky. That makes me a happy panda. Just looking at the numbers throughout, I mean, oh, Jesus, dude. I mean, we're talking thousands upon thousands of games. People are still playing this, Jordan. What, is this crazy?
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised. They're having like an average of 20K matches. That's pretty good. Also, people apparently really like their mortars in this game. Because that seems to be the overwhelming majority of weapon kills is the mortar. But it's good to see that an open source game like this is actually having a stable fan base. But then, as you said, the fan base consists of people who only play Xonotic, so it's not so much a barrier for entry as a brick wall.
This is true. I think as anyone who's ever, especially if you've been around on Linux before Steam. And before we had the Humble Bundles, getting Linux ports. Basically, all Linux gamers were really fucking good FPS players because that's all we fucking had, man. And this was even back then in those days. This is the game where you just got insta-gibbed the second you walked in.
Yeah, I played a lot of Warsaw back then. It's actually nothing short of amazing to see that Zenotic still manages around 3,000 players on average a month.
Yeah.
Like Jordan said in the notes, I would have lost that bet.
I mean, I'll admit that I'd say maybe a quarter of them are the developers or people who actively contribute to Zenotic. But still, that is impressive, especially for an open source game. Speaking of impressive, but not really, we're gonna get rad. We're gonna zap people with our beams. Throw some chairs at Super Rad Raygun soon. It's super. It's rad. It's Raygonomics. It's Super Rad Raygun from True Fun Entertainment, published by Screw Attack and Rooster Teeth, and a bunch of video content production sites that have decided to barf out this game. It is developed by True Fun Entertainment, made on the lovely FMA engine, developed by the lovely and occasionally sexy Flip-It-Jijibibibo. What is it? It's the year 1980X. Big hair is hot, and the war with the Soviets is colder than a refreshing glass of new Coke. Rad Raygun must travel the world fighting communist robots and save the 1980s by shooting his way through a decade of totally fresh, expanded version of the original X-Blig game. Good old X-Blig. It's my favorite of all the bligs, including Z-Blig. So let's kick this off. It's the CHAIRQUISITION. 1 chair means that it's crap. 2 chairs means that it's meh. 3 chairs means it's pretty good. 4 chairs means that it's awesome. We also got our categories of doom, mixed with working, shiny sounds, controls, and fun. So let's kick this off. Then tear down this wall.
Yes, Mr. Kaneda Gorba. I don't know where to fucking go with that. All right, let's get into it over here on the box of business, running the Ubuntu 1604 980 powered 4K displayed with somewhere hidden in its mysterious Canaveras maybe, an 8150 running at 4 gigajoules with 8 gigajoules of memory. It's got some issues. Whew. Okay, genuinely it does. Here's the thing. If you start it, it's going to start in windowed mode. And it's like, okay, there's a full screen button. Boom, I hit the full screen button. That's great. I play around and get done, rage quit, come back, it starts back in windowed mode. All right, doesn't remember that. So then I decided to get a bit fancy and enabled full screen. And then I was like, oh, no, I want to minimize it and put it in windowed mode. It went back in windowed mode. And I was like, fuck it, I want to play it back in full screen again because squirrel, it wouldn't go back into full screen. This is a bug. It is reproducible. So, I'm not saying you can't play it in big picture mode, but you're definitely going to have to do some fuckery in order to get that working. But it technically works. And so it gets technically 2 chairs.
Yeah, the full screen thing is a real deal. But on Fedora 24, 64-bit with GTX 980, an i7 6700K, 32 gigs of RAM, and a bunch of SSDs and some random JBOD configuration, it ran perfectly fine. I was playing it in window anyways because I like having stuff in a corner and using the full real estate of my 4K monitor. But I mean, it's forever locked at 60 FPS because VSync is on permanently, and it's not like changing that would really affect the game's performance at all. So I'll give it 3 chairs.
Yeah, no, there are no resolution options. None whatsoever. You only get the quote-unquote full screen option after
no, I
you're
did find
already...
out you can change it in the config file if you go digging around. But
Yeah, you can change it in the config file, or you can go in-game itself and then switch it into full screen. And if you do enable full screen, it doesn't change the resolution to whatever your monitor is doing. It just upscales the game from 720p to whatever resolution your monitor is currently doing. Now, chances are, in 2017, you expect a game to remember, the option settings. Not Super Rad Raygun. Oh, no. Because if you want it to remember your settings, it just gives you a big ol' fuck you. The first time I was playing through the very first level, my character clipped through the floor and I could do nothing else. There's actually a screenshot of that on my Google Plus stream if you happen to be a pluser. I managed to find an enemy that was close enough to the ground where I could just kill myself, and then I restarted. I played all the way through the level. Then I tried to go back in because apparently I missed a battery. Those are kind of important in this game. And when I finished it again, it tried to check my time against the internet times, and the game crashed. Really? This isn't going to be pretty. 2 chairs.
Just as a side note, if you are a Google Plus user and colloquially refer to yourself as a pluser, I highly encourage you to consider drinking bleach. But that's 2 chairs for Mixed with the Working. Up next is Shiny and Sounds.
Okay, we got to look at this. What you're seeing on the video, Pedro has it in, oh my god, my eyes bleed mode. And it normally has your standard greenish Game Boy color palette.
It's the only visible one.
Okay, Pedro's wicked blind too. When you start, you basically have these 2 palettes. You have your Game Boy, your standard looking one, and this Red Nightmare Fuel piece of ooh. So between those 2 initial palettes, I like to call one Nope, and the other one Can't Make Shit Out on the Screen, much like the original Game Boy, if we're being honest, minus the motion blur, which was also an extra challenge back in the days. It is being true to the source, though. You only get 4, air quote, around colors on screen at any time. Now, I did find out that if you disable the hipster pixel grid effect, it helped out a bit. Not that it remembers that option, because remember, ladies and gentlemen, this game doesn't remember shit. It's got fucking Alzheimer's, son.
Just like Reagan.
No, it's not. Maybe that they'll use that as an excuse. When you disable, the blockiness and the pixelness, it looks like something maybe from a high-def NES or an emulator. I'm guessing what the developer thought that these games look like versus what they actually look like. And it's not fugly. I kind of like it. It's kind of grown on me. But with the music, you got hipster pixels. So here comes the fucking chip tunes. Woo woo. All right, the train's pulling into the organ. They're not bad, but they are way overdone for anything ever on the original Game Boy. There's too much meat on them, girth on them, man. But I kind of like it. I really do. For a hipster pixel game, I don't get to do this often, but 3 chairs.
Yeah, I mean, I played my share of platformers on the original brick Game Boy, riding in the car, trying to find the street lamp that would allow me to see what the hell was on the screen. Yeah, if you did that, the struggle. It's real. It was a problem. But, yeah, it was. I mean, this game looks a lot better than anything that was on the Game Boy because, like Ben said, the people who made this didn't actually play the original brick Game Boy. I mean, the sprites are fairly well designed. Everything is clear cut. And again, it looks more clear than what you'd ever get on a Game Boy. They have this weird visual effect where once you start running low on battery, the screen starts whiting out, and that gave me a bit of a PTSD flashback to my childhood when I had to deal with the actual 4 AAA or the 4 AA batteries in my Game Boy dying and realizing, shit, there's not enough time. I don't have enough gameplay left. But yeah, like Ben said, the soundtrack is all right. It's a bit derivative though, because I hear a bunch of stuff from other games, including Pokemon of all things. I mean, it's definitely possible. It's not going to win any awards for it. I'll give it 2 cheers. It's kind of meh.
So you start with only the Game Boy palette, which even in an 80 million to 1 contrast ratio IPS display, it's still pretty fucking hard to see when you're moving around. And I lost track of my character countless times. I get that they were trying to go for the original Game Boy experience and, you know, maybe artificially inflating the difficulty by limiting just how much of the game you as a player can see. But you know what that tells me? That they let their pretentiousness as a developer get the best of them and stuck to their vision in detriment of the game. That's not good. And the chiptunes, yeah, those were muted within the first 5 minutes. So for me, you're looking at 1 chair.
Well, that's 2 chairs for Shiny and Sounds. Let's rock and roll with Control. That rhymes. Ha. I'm a poet, and I did not realize it at the time, which is a haiku. Ben, talk to us.
Oh, okay. With the controls, when you first start out, Super Brad, he controls it's a bit meh. It's kind of funky. It's a bit sloppy. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. Not bad, but you're really thinking they should have tightened up the controls, Brad, and you really are. But if you stick with it and build up your agility, it becomes quite enjoyable, quite playable, nay, almost passable. But the controls definitely lose a chair like all other fuck-mothering settings in this game loses every time you restart it. Because I kind of wanted to remap some things. You can remap them, but guess what? It completely forgets about the controls every time you do this, and that is a genuine pain in the ass. So I gotta give it 3. I should give it 2, but here's the thing: the default controls for this are logically laid out.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, what did you want to actually remap? What kind of controls did you actually want to remap in this
just
game?
jump and fire. They didn't feel right to me.
Fair enough. Yeah, the walk cycle in this feels really, really slow, and I guess once you get enough batteries to upgrade your agility and actually get some of the mobility options, that might be a little better. But I was not patient enough to get to that point, and so I had to suffer through it. Everything works though. Though the one thing I found a little bit disappointing, and it's enough to ding at a chair, is despite it being FNA, which actually has logic for correct button prompts, I got Xbox prompts on my DualShock controller. So I'll give it 3 chairs for Control.
Yeah, it is very much FNA. So if the controls were broken, it would have made it plainly clear that they had put out an absolutely horrible game on purpose. But the controls work. For the most part, it still only gets 3 chairs because it doesn't remember the remapped controls.
That's why you got to do it through Steam, man. But anyways, that's 3 chairs for Controls. Let's finish this off. Ben, did you have fun with Super Rad Raygun?
It's a big game of chance. I have a distinct feeling that this game was designed by a team that were probably not alive in 1989. # old man Vin. But they got a few things right here. Because if you're doing old school, with that limited bit of room, you got limited lives. You have an old school health bar. I don't mind that. You die. Guess what, son? Start back from the beginning of the level when you run out of those lives. There's no difficulty option. Really digging that. And if you go from the enemies off screen and you go back, the enemies come back like they did in the old days. Lovely. Get off my lawn. Hell, I even kind of wish there's a checkpoint system. I kind of wish they'd gotten rid of that and just made it old-fashioned Nintendo hard. But what you're here for is to... How was it? Well, let's talk about that. It's like Mega Man, Mario 3, Zelda 2, and a bag of mushrooms shagged and had a baby. It is.
Sounds kinky.
It's kind of kinky, but unfortunately that baby, it came out functioning a lot like Sloth from the Goonies at first.
Sounds extra kinky.
Because, I mean, if you haven't made it to Berlin in this game, you haven't seen how challenging it can actually be. And it's kind of a sad thing, man. Sad thing, Brad, because most people will not make it there because it takes well over an hour, sometimes 2 hours, to reach that point. And that's a big fucking ask to put into a game. And it also takes you past your refund point. But when/if you do, you will get rewarded with a wicked hard and properly done platformer. You know, you get all your batteries together, you learn the mechanics of the game, you get some new enemies, some new environments, and, you know, you rescue Nelson Mandela from prison. That's also in there. The humor's got, it's hit or miss, but sometimes it's just like, what? There's one time Super Rad was like, oh, they've spilt all this oil in the ocean. And Reagan was like, oh, think of the poor oil companies losing all their profits. And I was golf clapping at that. Unlike these lot, I kind of liked it. I give it 3 cheers. I put 5 hours into it, and I might put a few more.
Yeah, to me, it just kind of seems like a middle-of-the-road platformer. I get the feeling that they're sort of banking on the visual aesthetic and a misguided sense of nostalgia to generate sales. But that's really not enough. The battery juggling mechanic is actually really interesting. I like the idea of like, oh, you don't have access to all your abilities at once, and you have to prioritize which ones you really need. And they give you they actually give you a good array of like stuff that you can do. It's just a matter of hunting down the batteries, and if you don't have enough batteries, you gotta do a lot of switching, which I find really disrupts the gameplay. And I'm ultimately not a fan of it. It's one of those examples of a mechanic that had a good conceptual start, and then when it came to execution, didn't quite do it. Also, I don't really remember the Game Boy having left and right shoulder buttons, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah,
I feel a lot of the I didn't get to Berlin like Ven did, but I feel a lot of the difficulty stems from the sort of loosey controls and the awkward walk cycle. There's weirdness too, where like you can do jump cancels and whatnot, but it just stops your ascent. You descend at the regular speed, which is a little annoying, especially when you need to do some precision stuff and some tight maneuvering. And yeah, I mean, ultimately it's just meh. It doesn't really do anything to stand out from the dozens of other platformers I had to play on Linux GameCast. I mean, it's competently done. Nothing is terribly broken aside from not memorizing any of your settings, which is, you know, really bad on you developers. But I mean, I don't hate it, but I don't really like it either. I got to give it a middle of the road score. 2 chairs.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it a lot.
What,
Yeah.
So Pedro, would you say you're better better dead than rad?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because it was actually an exercise in frustration playing in this game, but I'll get to that. Now, if you've been watching us long enough, chances are you probably remember everything I said about ASMR2, or AM2R, as it was actually called. Because, well, even if you don't, I'm willing to...
I'm sorry, I'm just watching Pedro's video of this. You suck at this game.
Yes, I do. I had absolutely no intention of ever getting better at it. It's not even installed anymore. Now, here's a few bullet points to help you remember what I said about AM2R. It serves no other purpose than to reinforce my belief that nostalgia grabs have worn out their welcome. They really, really have. It does absolutely nothing new to innovate the platformer genre. It doesn't. It's literally a fucking nostalgia grab. Hipster pixel visuals. Yes, and it's actually made even worse because of the pointlessly limited color scheme. And then I hear some people shouting in the background, but that's the whole point! Well, if that's the point, if that's their selling point, they have bigger problems than me shitting on their game right now. The annoying quote-unquote chiptunes, the likes of which can only be rivaled by a Pulse Audio buffer underrun. And last but not least, just to make everything even worse, they will expect that you do some bullshit leaps of faith if you want to get all of the batteries in any given level. That's not level design. That's asinine, and it turns the game into an exercise of trial, error, and frustration. 1 chair.
All right. Well, that totals up to 2 chairs for the fun section and 2 chairs for the final score. So, gentlemen, final thoughts?
Well, I really think I know why I like this, because the 2 games I had for my original old-fashioned Get Off My Lawn Game Boy was Mega Man, like Revenge of Dr. Wily's, the first one that ever came out, and Super Mario World. And of course I had the pack in Tetris, but after you beat that, make the rocket ship take off the first time, he's like, whoosh, throw that thing away. I played the shit out of those. And I also played the shit out of Mega Man 2 on the NES, and I was really digging that. And it kind of has that feel. I mean, it's a bit of an homage to it. It's not quite there, but it was clearly done just with a lot of love and a lot of attention to detail that you don't normally see. I mean, there's no way even Pedro could call this a piece of shovelware.
Oh, it's not shovelware. It's just bad. It's really, really bad. And enough is enough because goddamn hipster pixel nostalgia grab retro-inspired platformers are a dime a dozen on Steam nowadays. They're not fun. They don't look good. Hell, in Super Rad Raygun, I could barely see what was happening half the time. So I guess that's a plus. Just stop. Please.
I mean, there's stuff to like about this game. It definitely does have a sense of humor. Like I said, the battery mechanic is interesting. If you can sort of get past the whole disruptive thing, then it's a neat mechanic. I don't know. I was just playing this and going, okay, when does this become weird, or when does this start bucking my expectations? Apparently, it turns into Flappy Bird at one point once you get a jetpack, according to Ven. So maybe there's some impetus to play a little bit more, but it's a pretty tough cliff to get over. If you want to apparently get to the part of the game where it's actually fun. Why can't the game just be fun from the get-go? Why can't it just build up and become even more fun and become a really nice experience? It's just kind of meh to me. If this game comes on sale for like super cheap, maybe pick it up. It's not, you're not, I don't think you're going to hate it, but I mean, that's all up to you. Coming up next, though, we talk about spousal relationships and how Linux GameCast destroys them. And also, Pedro starts making out with a picture of Jim Sterling, but that's nothing.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just spent close to an hour shouting your way. How about you shout back in ours? We love you. You guys and gals are the sole reason we keep making this show. If no one was watching, chances are Ven would have probably given up a long time ago. So
you say that, but that's not true.
Yeah, no, let's not learn whether or not that's true. If you want to shout in our direction, you can go to linuxgamecast.com. You hit the contact button. You'll get a form. Just pay attention if you're a game developer. You want to promote your game, make sure to send us 3 Steam keys or like a copy we can share among all of us. If you just watched the show and you noticed we said something you didn't exactly agree with, you want to send some hate mail our way, make sure to pick LGC Weekly from the little Dropboxy. Or if you're a fan of that slightly more PG show that we do on Wednesdays and you'd like to give some feedback for that particular show, just pick LWDW. It's easy enough. And chances are, if you leave us a comment on Patreon or on YouTube, we will also pick it up and we'll be happy to feature it right here. So this week, you may remember last week, we had a little bit of hate mail, some genuine hate mail from Kathleen. And now Jason says, so here I was watching your show, and all of a sudden, at the end of episode 230, I hear my wife's name, Kathleen, along with some familiar commits. So apparently she runs a Git server. She makes about your show.
It could be CVS, man. Calm down.
It could be, yes. I had to rewind it just to make sure of what I heard. I had to wake her up just to ask her and show her what she'd done, and she could not believe that she made it on the show, nor could I. Too funny. Wrong too. Keep up the good work and stay hidden. Never.
Now, just a point of order here. If you send us hate mail, it'll probably show up. I mean,
yes.
Let's just make that clear. Do not think that we are so flooded with your hate that we don't have time to discuss all of it, because we do.
I just like it at the end of the day. I mean, you can definitely think about it. You know, it's LGC Weekly, bringing families together
and driving other.
It's like I can imagine Kathleen's asleep and Jason goes, "What did you do?
Like, wake up and get a load of this shit. These jackasses are talking to you. Now they know your name. What have you done?"
Well, now we know your name too, Jason, and we're coming. We're coming for you. The next one is from Michael Spiff, and he says, Dota 2 is the most actively played game on Steam and crushes Rocket League on Steam. CSGO also dominates Rocket League on Steam. Give some stats. This is the average number of players playing the game at any given time. There are, of course, peak numbers too, but the average is what is the most valuable, as it indicates the player pool for finding matches. The number often reported by game companies doesn't indicate how well the game is actually doing. The important number is the average number playing at any given time. This number is usually not released by the game companies. They might say active accounts, but we have no idea what that actually means. In the case of Rocket League, it's just 25 million over the course of its lifetime. Of Rocket League, it still doesn't indicate the current active player base. Basically, it's meaningless, and you really shouldn't use it to compare against LOL. Also, Rocket League is free to play and pay to win. Trash. Dota 2 is the best online. Blah 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 blah. Love, Michael Speth.
Okay, first, we never compared Rocket League to a goddamn thing. We were just saying, hey, look, this is how many players they have. Second, I'm going to bring this up. Has anyone ever had a problem finding matches playing Rocket League? Ever?
No.
Nope.
No, because I just plugged Foxy and then...
Right. Well, then again, we normally don't play with randos. And... Pedro, I think you have some comments on the Dota 2 is huge because it's free and you can buy hats.
Yes.
That's great. I have nothing personally against Dota 2. I've tried it multiple times. It's just not my cup of chainsaw. But when it does come down to rocket cars being pay to win, I think you have some issues with that.
That's bullshit. And I've had this discussion with Michael earlier in the year. Last year, if we're being honest. Now, I'd just like to get into a couple of points, namely the term, as coined by Jim Sterling, is fee to pay, not fee to play.
Nitpicking minutia, the sign of a great argument.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. If you're going to talk about games you have absolutely no experience with, proven, I mean, just look at what you wrote, and a personal vendetta against Rocket League for some reason, at least get your terms right. Now, as I mentioned, I've had this discussion with Michael before, and his argument descended to him posting a URL to some graphs where someone attributed just arbitrary values to the turning radius and the hitboxes of all cars and then compared them. He thought he had it in the bag by only sharing the Imgur link that showed the graphs, but I managed to find the original Reddit post that had those graphs and had all of the data and all the methodology that the person used, and the author of that those very same graphs said that there were no significant advantages to any of the cars, regardless of whether...
You definitely got to look at that graph. Even when you see that graph, I saw it on the Reddit post, looking at the numbers between the different cars is like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's well within the error of the margin of error.
No, they were within not .x% of one another. So that's negligible. Completely negligible. The only real car that had a significant disparate stat to other cars was the Batmobile. The Batmobile has the longest, but also the shortest in height, longest in length.
But
hitbox.
you know, Pedro, it's not the size of the Batmobile that counts. It's how you use it.
Yeah, it's how you use it. But then again, we've all played a significant amount of rocket cars. How many people do you see playing the Batmobile? I've seen one. In over 40 hours in rocket cars, I've seen one. But then again, maybe that's why he was so quick to
No,
add
Pedro, but don't you understand when you see a Batmobile show up on the field, you know that person has a clear advantage and everyone runs and quits the game immediately, right? That's how that works.
No, they usually tend to lose the game. Because that one Batmobile I ran against, they lost.
Well, I mean,
maybe
simple,
that's
really.
the reason that Michael
Batman.
was so quick to have the differences are small spiel when attempting to persuade Ven on YouTube, because
he did persuade. I understand. See, here's the difference. I understand his intellectual argument. Now, if there are slight differences, but you know, if you buy the premium cars in that business, there are differences.
Yes, there are.
The developers from Rocket Cars have confirmed, you know, different cars have different hitboxes and turning radiuses. However, they all have the exact same top speed and all that shit. There are differences, and I understand that you have to pay for those differences. But I'll argue the bowling ball metaphor is, you know, I have two bowling balls. I used to be a league bowler, and one's just a regular hammer ball. It's made by Hammer, and it's my breaking ball, and I throw that. And I use that for breaking, and it works really good. And I have my spare ball for picking up spares with this fancy bullshit reactive urethane and all this crap. You know, sparkly cowboy boots and lacquered hairdo. And it's great. And technologically, It's light years beyond, just my hammer bowl, but I could give that fucking bowl to Pedro and he would go right into the gutter with it. So
probably.
I just learned a lot more about bowling than I ever expected to in a hate mail segment.
But here's the thing. In Rocket League, and according to those very same graphs that Michael shared as his winning argument, which it wasn't, at least 3 of the cars that you have to pay for were effectively worse than the one you start with. That very basic one that Ven usually plays in the after show? That car is better than at least 3 of the paid for cars. So that's not pay to win. That would be pay to lose half the time. So there goes your entire argument again.
And on that bombshell, let's cue the music. You can always find us around 9:30 Eastern Mood. I'm just fucking with people because I know YouTube is having some buffering issues on the West Coast right now, but you can always scream at me. I'm at Vince Stone on the Twitter nets, plus Vince Stone on the G pluses. I do my best to get back to anyone who sends me a message. J-Baby.
I'm Jordan Svung. You can find me talking about all sorts of pencil-related magic tricks at the Burning Pool on Twitter, plus Jordan Svung on Google+.
And I am currently staring at our return video on YouTube and seeing absolutely no buffering. So I am Pedro Mateos. You can find me at Unaccounted For on Twitter or plus Pedro Mateos on Google+.
Hashtag works for me.
It always works for me. It's like we have Strider inside.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
And it's just me. You're like, no lies.
Okay, now it's buffering.
Well, it's too late now. 5 dudes.